I would definitely die on the mindset hill. So knowing that, I would go dying, knowing that your mindset, what you think about, you create in your life. I would definitely die on that hill for sure.
Hello, welcome, Budri Gamawara, and welcome to Startup 360, the weekly show
where we talk about founder fun, not founder mode.
I'm Simon Thomsen. My pronouns are oh my god, not him again, and get away from me.
That's delightful, Simon. And I'm Pilates Princess this week. I'm
Princess.
Kayla Medica.
And you look fabulous. You've got love all over you. This is our Mardi Gras edition. Gay Christmas, as my colleague Adam calls it. It is
Adam.
A pretty exciting weekend. I think the weather's going to be great. There used to be a former MLC who used to pray for rain every Mardi Gras, and just shows that God loves the sun because it was pretty great. But we've got a real live MLC coming in today to talk to us, Jacqui Munro from the New South Wales Parliament.
She's the first openly queer woman elected to the state Liberal Party.
Yeah, in New South Wales, which is amazing when you think about it. Nearly 40 years after we finally removed the discrimination that we had in the legislation in New South Wales against gay and lesbian people. It's we've still got a long way to go, but we're getting there, which is good. And we've got another amazing guest here today
Our
too.
second guest is going to be Veronica Mason. She is a high-performance coach with VRM Performance.
Yeah.
So got a great personal story as well.
Yeah, and she would have a lot of work to do on me, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. Before we do that, I want to say that Startup 360 is supported by Vanta, helping startups unlock market opportunities through automated compliance. They do a cool job. I get a little bit excited every time we talk SOC 2, but, that's another story for another time. Hey, how was your week, by the way?
I am very happy you asked because I've got a maths story for you.
A maths story?
I know. Usually it's you bringing maths up, but today it's me. So yesterday I locked myself out of my apartment and was struggling with my spare key that wasn't jiggling the lock quite right. And a neighbor came to help me, but as part of we'd never met before. So as awkward small talk, they were like, oh, do you watch maths?
Oh my God. Do you know a celebrity?
No. Then I had to be like, no, I've never watched maths. Oh. And they were so I just don't have any other small talk.
I thought you were going to say it was Mumbles from Maths.
No, I don't know who that is.
Oh, it's the guy who's subtitled. Adrian, I think his name is.
But they subtitle someone because he doesn't speak clearly?
Yeah. There's been a whole discussion about it.
Oh. Maybe I should watch it.
You should.
On to the news.
I reckon gay maths would be good. Couldn't we kind of do that? That'd be fun.
They should. I mean, everybody deserves love in the maths world.
Absolutely. Well, we could get everyone involved, no matter what your identity, and find someone you love, which is the whole point, really, isn't it? Being able to love who you want to love. I do want to ask about Kayla's. Well, it's not career tip this week, but what's the tip?
So the tip is very thematic for this week, this lovely Mardi Gras week. So the official theme for Mardi Gras this year is free to be. And my tip is that if your workplace does not make you feel free to be, then fuck them. Go find a workplace that does make you feel included and appreciated. Because there is one out there for you.
And as career advice goes, she doesn't mean that in the literal sense. She means it in a more metaphorical, please go away sense.
Yes.
Yes, good.
Not
just
in the wise
thought I'd clear
tech
that up. Yep, okay. Mardi Gras.
Yes.
I want to ask a couple of things.
Yes.
Favorite musician, because we talk about music every week, and Kayla's normally got an album recommendation. Who is it this week? Who do you love listening to?
Okay, so there's another Japanese artist. They are an all-female electronic dance group called Five, but it's spelt F5VE, and I don't think any of the members are queer, but they have become very much like Lady Gaga is embedded in the queer community. The queer community in Japan and around the world.
It's kind of like Japanese Kylie.
Yeah. And they just announced yesterday that their first album is coming out. So I'm very keen for that. If you like really repetitive dance music, they are so catchy.
Mine would have to be Rufus Wainwright, Canadian singer-songwriter. who I saw as part of the Sydney Festival at the Opera House this year. He has a voice that absolutely melts my heart. It is glorious. There was an album about 20 years ago he did called Want To, and a song Angus Day, where it just, it brings tears to my eyes. It is so beautiful. He also did an album of Shakespeare's sonnets, which I reckon is really, really cool. Wonderful version of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, but brother of Martha Wainwright, of course, he's also a great singer. I just love him, love his voice, and he's just fabulous, absolutely brilliant musician. Writers, reading anyone interesting?
Yeah, so I actually struggled to come up with a queer author that I've read, and I even was like going through my Goodreads account being like, surely I've read some, and it has come up as a spot that I need improvement in. I think I've spent a lot of time trying to find diversity in what I read in terms of like geography, like authors from different countries and things like that, but not so much in queer literature. So that's a improvement for me to make. But I'm currently reading Remarkably Bright Creatures, which has an octopus as one of the characters.
And more?
I haven't really gotten far enough into it yet. The octopus has kind of just revealed that it's on a suicide mission, I think. Like it wants to escape its aquarium, but it knows that it has one more escape left in it. Like this is its last summer. I could do a gay octopus joke. The floor's yours.
What did the boy octopus say to the boy octopus?
I hate when people ask me pun questions because my
Can
brain
I hold
is like...
your hand?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Jeanette Widdowson for me. There's a book that I absolutely love called Written on the Body, which was wonderful. But the first one she did probably about 40 years ago was Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. And she did a follow-up book called Why Be Happy When You Could Be Normal, which was about her childhood, and it's kind of like the companion book to that. But she is such a smart, fierce writer. She's covered art. She explores so many different themes and ideas. She's got a new book out on AI. I haven't read it yet. It's on my pile, and I want to get to it soon because she's just such an English writer, brilliant and incisive, and just a really cool chick.
What a 5-star review.
Yeah, totally.
Really cool chick. First guest.
Let's do it. Happy Mardi Gras, Kayla.
Welcome,
Jacqui. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm not in bright colours, but I'm channeling some like Gaga shoulders here.
I thought you were in your budget estimates outfit.
If only I could look so fabulous while tearing ministers down.
Now,
what's stopping you?
Good
you
point.
you are in opposition at the moment, but who knows? We do have another election. I think we're at the halfway mark, aren't we?
Yep,
in the term of the Minns government.
We are counting down the days. I think it's just under 500 days now.
But I do
So
want
specific.
to get to the Jacqui Munro story. What's a nice girl like you doing in a parliament like this?
Thank you for saying that I'm nice for a start. I'm trying to do my best for the people of New South Wales. I've always loved politics.
Yeah.
I grew up listening to ABC radio on the way to band practice when I was like maybe 13 or 14, and I was the nerd that watched Question Time and watched every budget and the 7:30 report. And from an early age, I felt deeply that politicians have a voice and they have power, and that in a democracy, as a responsible citizen, there is value in getting involved. So when I went to uni, and I should say I was always a Liberal. I was like super nerdy, praising John Howard on my Facebook statuses at an early age. So that's a terrible thing to admit. But when I went to uni, I got involved in student leadership. I saw how student life could be improved, but also how it was amazing. Like I was a director of O Week, and I was really involved in the Jazz Society, and I was president of the Arts Faculty Society. Like I loved being involved because there were so many people who were just as engaged, who wanted to make a difference and serve the community and make our lives fun and better. So that was really fun. And then started getting approached by parties, and as I said, it was always a Liberal. Matt Keane, before he got elected as the member for Hornsby, sought me out, and he was part of a couple of people getting me involved in the party. And I just went, this is something that's important and valuable, and if we are all governed by the rules that legislation imposes upon us, then, I want to be involved in that. Like, I don't want to just be governed by rules. I want to be involved in making those rules and perhaps breaking some of those rules as well if need be. So, yeah.
So for people who are unfamiliar with politics, just explain to them what it means to be on the red leather rather than the green stuff in the New South Wales Parliament.
Okay, so New South Wales and Australia, the federal parliament, are a bicameral system. It means we have two houses of parliament, which is largely based on the British system, which is the House of Lords and the House of Commons. The green, I've heard different theories about why the lower house, the House of Commons, or in our case, the Legislative Assembly, is green. Apparently because the green space of a village is where people would meet. And so everyday people could come and discuss ideas and talk about what they wanted their communities to look like. So that is apparently replicated in the lower house green. And then the red leather in the upper house, I don't know if it was just like an easy dye, but certainly the Legislative Council in New South Wales is the oldest parliament in Australia. So we celebrated our 200th anniversary last year. And it's changed a lot over time. So originally it was appointed, but now we are elected by the people. So I represent all of New South Wales and am elected from all of the New South Wales constituency. So we don't represent in the upper house a particular electorate. We look after all of the state, which means we have the opportunity to look at policy areas from a little bit of a higher viewpoint, and we have a lot of committee work that we do. We go all around the state talking to people and understanding how different policy areas affect them. So, yeah, it's a massive privilege, and it's known as the House of Review because often there isn't a majority in the upper house, which means you need to work with other parties to actually get legislation passed, and it means that that's where amendments to legislation are usually passed or not passed, and where we try to make sure that legislation is as robust and representative as possible. So, yeah, I mean, things like the most recent example that I'm really proud of is that in New South Wales, through the upper house, we strengthened the net zero legislation that the Labor Party were putting through. So we, along with the Greens, forced them into changing the legislation so that there was not only a net zero by 2050 target, but also a 70% reduction in emissions by 2035, so that there was actually a runway up to 2050, which I think is incredibly important and is an example of how we work together across the aisle to make that kind of change.
Yeah. So when I was looking into your activities and what you stand for and all those kind of things, I think if I hadn't already known that you were part of the Liberal Party, I probably wouldn't have guessed that you were aligned with the Liberal Party. So I have to ask, like, what draws you to the Liberal Party?
Yeah, I get that a lot. I'm probably not what the stereotypical Liberal MP might look like in the past, but I think that is changing. And I will just give a shout out to the New South Wales Liberals. In our entire state party room, we are one woman away from being at 50% gender split, gender parity. So we also, out of the whole parliament, there are 6 or 7 MPs under the age of about 36 or 37. They're all Liberals. No other party has such an excellent representation of young people in New South Wales, and I'm really proud of that. And I think we do need to shift the view of what people think a Liberal member is. So for me, it's really about freedom of expression, which I think is very relevant around Mardi Gras. It's around like enterprise and individual responsibility, that we have this capacity in our small L liberal democracy to actually make a difference if we sort of pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. But what makes me a small L Liberal is that there is a role for government. Like, I'm not a libertarian, and I believe that there is, in a compassionate society, a role for redistribution. So you need to find that balance between a taxation system that rewards effort and is incentivizing for people to work hard and create more wealth and more opportunities and more prosperity and productivity, but where there are people who aren't able to, for whatever reason, fend for themselves, essentially, that a compassionate society says, well, you know, we're here to help. We're not forgetting people who can't for whatever reason, get to a level of personal wealth that allows them to live a dignified life.
I think it was John Howard who talked about the Liberal Party being a broad church, and when you were just referring to the efforts in changing the legislation around net zero, the New South Wales State Party is very different to what we're currently seeing in the federal debate. Do you get a sense that, you can find your corner of the idea of the coalition in a way that is a lot more flexible? Because often I notice in those discussions and debates that in the Labor Party you're tied to the team and you don't break ranks, whereas certainly the Conservative side of politics often says that, we're all individuals, so you can make up your own mind on any given decision, putting aside the whips.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whips actually get given a gift of a literal whip that they hang up in their office just to remind them of their job. So that idea that Liberals are allowed to cross the floor without being kicked out of the party like the Labor Party does, that is one of the early things that actually drew me to the Liberal Party, because I thought, well, if you're there in Parliament, you are there to serve the people of New South Wales or Australia, not to serve a party. And I think that that's a really fundamental principle that, super early on really cemented my sense that the Liberal Party was the one for me. I think that I like what John Brogden said. He said a broad tent, which is even broader than the broad church. And for me, it comes down to the strength of the two-party system. And one of my friends often says, if you're not going to vote Liberal, vote Labor, because I think if we have a solid two-party system, and that has been quite a unique feature of our democracy in Australia that has allowed us to have a lot of stability, which is partly a result of our mandatory voting system, compulsory voting. It means that there is a stability, and also I hope and I think a sense that we need to look beyond very individual or like time-specific issues, and that it's more about values and principles and ideologies that last over time, and that there are some core or fundamental beliefs that we can get behind that will guide us through different issues no matter what they are. So if that is the case, the reason that I love the two-party system is because it allows us to get further to those core issues and hopefully appeal to as many people as possible, which means that there is a greater set of similarities that kind of binds us all together. Like that broad tent means that I have to work with people who I disagree with perhaps vehemently on some issues, but we have to work to find the commonalities, and sometimes we have to compromise on our values. That is politics and that is life. Like, you can't go into politics thinking that you are the most correct person about everything, because that's not what democracy is actually. Democracy is really about having the courage to listen.
So you are the Shadow Minister for the Arts, Innovation and Digital. If you could force everyone to agree with you, what is something that you would do for the startup ecosystem in terms of government support if you could like force it through?
Nice. Well, at the moment, there is very little that is being done, and I've been very critical of that. So the first thing is to have stability. Like, I think when we think about government, we're at a time now where governments need to be trustworthy, but they also need to be dynamic. And you have to kind of get involved with the communities that you're governing for to get that trust to allow you to be agile and to move with these like incredibly wild times. So they're kind of like the first things before you ram anything through. So what would I do? I would have stability and clarity in this sector, like clear plan, clear communication. If you can't do something, just say you can't do it. If you're not going to provide something, just say you can't provide it. But we have the makings of an amazing ecosystem, absolutely. And that's because it's been place-based. It's because it's been focused on developing a community, I think. Like fundamentally, things like fish burners have been incredible for that sense of community. It's like it's not rocket science stuff. It just needs to be done. Like, I think that's kind of the reality.
Jacqui, I want to ask you about what's being called identity politics, and especially in terms of, where we are Mardi Gras weekend, and inclusivity, because, of course, we've now suddenly got this massive pushback against DEI, and we're now starting to exclude certain people in the US. There seems to be a little bit of an inclination that way here in Australia as well. How important is that in terms of the political process, and have you felt included?
Okay, so to answer your last question first, do I feel welcomed in the party? There's one campaign that I've been involved in where I was really targeted for my sexuality in quite a cruel and unusual way. But otherwise, in my almost 14 years in the party, it hasn't been a problem with me. One of the first events that I got involved in as a Liberal was to march in the Liberal Party's Mardi Gras float, which has been going for over a quarter of a century. Like, there have been queer people in the Liberal Party for a long time, and actually a lot of the firsts in the queer community and elected representatives have been Liberals. So the first openly gay man in the lower house in New South Wales, Bruce Nolly-Smith, was a Liberal. In the federal parliament, Trent Zimmerman, who's a member for North Sydney, Liberal. And the first president of the upper house was Don Harwin, a Liberal. So we've actually got this incredible representation that has been transformative for politics in the parliament. And these people have worked over decades and decades. Chris Pulplick is another person who literally changed what human rights looks like in Australia for the queer community. So I'm definitely not in any way alone in that sense of being a part of that Liberal queer community. And what I've actually found is that often parts of the queer community decide that they don't want to be inclusive of political views that are not their own. And we've seen this in Mardi Gras, where there have been attempts to get rid of the Liberal Party float and other political party floats because certain people on the board and in those positions of power don't agree with some of the things that we agree with. And I think that that's really dangerous and is really ironic as well, that some people talk a lot about inclusivity, but actually it's only that the type of inclusivity suits them. We passed the gay conversion ban last year, and that was really heartfelt and really beautiful to see the community come together, and that was a unanimous vote across the parliament. So not all parties agreed, but the vast majority of parties agreed, including the Liberal Party. So and that's something that we took to the election as well. I think there's a lot of unity in the idea that actually we should let people be themselves. And Mardi Gras, of course, is a beautiful expression of that. And we have lots of MPs and lots of members. And I think I heard a really interesting way of this being described recently, where in the Liberal Party, we think about human rights and gay rights as that individual human rights, that individual liberty and free expression, whereas the left think about it in more of a collective identity politics way. And, both get to the same conclusion, but for different reasons. And I think that that's kind of interesting to explore, because then you go into other ways of understanding the world according to a viewpoint. And as I said, everyone in politics thinks that they might be the exact right person to solve every single problem, but we all have to work together. So when we can find commonality, and no matter how we get there, that is the sign of progress, and it's also the sign of lasting change. When we get to the same conclusion, if it's from different ways, then we can actually make change that won't be threatened through future changes of government, for example. So they're the things that you get to where you go, all right, well, there's a point in making the arguments that I'm making. There's a point in me being here. There's a point in representing a different type of life experience, whatever that might be, because we've been able to come together and find the similarities in what a future looks like for us.
Okay, we'll have to end it there, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Really
have
appreciate
a
it.
great Mardi Gras.
Happy Mardi
Mardi
Gras.
Gras.
Happy Gay Christmas.
We'll be right back with Startup 360 and our next guest, Veronica Mason. Welcome back to Startup 360 with Simon and
Kayla.
and Veronica. Welcome,
Hello.
Veronica Mason,
Hi.
VRM performance coaching speaker, high performance coach, presenter of Amazing Pitch Nights. I remember that 12 months ago.
That is also true, yes.
Great to have you here. Happy Mardi Gras.
Yeah, happy Mardi Gras, happy Pride.
Tell us your story, because it is an extraordinary one, and of course it had a literally life-changing moment.
Yeah, I think there's two real components, and one is about, my sexuality, and then kind of one is about the way that I operate in the world and what I do now. So probably start with where in high school, because I think that when I explain what I went through, I think that people really understand why caring about the LGBTQI plus is so important, but also obviously so important to me. So when I was in high school in my later years, so year 11 and 12, I was outed in my high school, and it was a really, really, really challenging experience for me. So people stopped talking to me. People called my house phone and outed me to my family, and contested my school marks and all these kinds of weird things that kind of went on in that time. And I just felt so alone. There wasn't anyone that I was talking to. No one was talking to me for about a year. And it had a really amazing silver lining, because I had literally nothing to do other than to study. And I was very fortunate for that, because I ended up getting into a law degree at UNSW. So I think that there's always silver linings in things. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was an amazing opportunity for growth. And I think that I really took from that it wasn't safe to be, to be open with my sexuality. And I was very lucky to go to a university, UNSW, that was very, very, very liberal, and found people that were really supportive. And then ended up being a scholar for the Pinnacle Foundation, which we can talk about as well. And I think that really started to imbue in me this sense of kind of ability that, you have to really be authentic with who you are and go after what you really want to go after. So that was kind of in the very beginning of my university stages of kind of getting my confidence back up. And then, as you referred to, when I was 23, I had an accident on a university excursion where I broke my back in 6 places. And that was also very hugely life-changing for me, because I didn't know if I could walk. I didn't know if I could go and do the things I wanted to do anymore. I didn't know if I could be an international diplomat, which is what I wanted to do. And in that process, I started to become really interested in personal development and human optimization, basically, because I didn't have the same capacities physically that I had before the accident, obviously. So I had to kind of really master my mind and really master your mindset. So when you're in incredible amounts of pain, you have to be so conscientious about, I had to be so conscientious about the thoughts and the way that I was kind of thinking about myself and my life, and rebuilding that whole process for me. And so I ended up becoming a lawyer, and the same process. Maybe I didn't have as much time as the person sitting next to me, so I had to be really focused with my mind and learning all those tools to do that. And so became absolutely enamored with this idea that, 1 or 2% shifts in your mindset can lead to incredible changes in your life and the quality of your life. So that was definitely what I saw, and just became so passionate about it that I really wanted to pursue this as my career and help other people become really the best versions of themselves in a way that was authentic to them. And I think to bring in both that experience that I had when I was in high school with the sexuality, as well as the experience that I had having the accident, I think I really want people to, it's not necessarily like learning to be something completely different. It's about becoming really who you're meant to be and stripping away the kind of societal norms that stop people from being what they really truly should be. So, yeah.
You ready to 10X?
I'm totally ready to 10X.
Okay. First question is from me, and I feel like I'm getting a reputation as the person who asks hard questions.
Okay, go for it.
So in the mentor-mentee relationship, because obviously you're a coach,
yeah,
there's a lot of emphasis on the mentor side, but what would you say makes for a good mentee?
Okay, coachable, teachable, and trainable. That's what we like to see. My own coach says she told me that once, and it stuck with me. And you really want somebody who's willing to take the work, run with it, super excited, and follows through. Yeah.
What's your favourite thing to do at Mardi Gras?
Is the hard thing.
I think that's a hard question.
That is a seriously hard question.
I love being part of the community. I think it's a really great time where in the 2 weeks that everybody is just open and free to be themselves. And there's so many different activities to do. I think marching in Mardi Gras is such a special experience because you've got literally hundreds of thousands of people cheering you for having something that, you know, me and a lot of my community have been, you know, ostracized for. It's quite an interesting flip of the switch. So I think marching in Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
From school, yeah, and still happening today. So, yeah, which is wild. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, beat that for hard questions.
My questions are not very Mardi Gras themed because I really love
That's
what you do for
okay.
work.
I like the difference. Yeah.
Real contrast.
Yeah.
What is the best blanket piece of advice that you can give?
Watch your thoughts because they become your life. So yeah, the more conscientious about your thoughts you are, the more agency and autonomy you have over the life that you're going to create, because it's a co-creation, I believe. So yeah, watch your thoughts.
So you're an ex-lawyer,
Yes.
and you're dealing with a lot of people in startups. Do you just think they're all about breaking the law?
I think there's some creativity with rules in the startup ecosystem that is quite different from law, and I think that's kind of really interesting to play around with. But yeah, I think, and I was kind of very, very heavily involved in technology law as well, and that's all about how you can do things where law doesn't even exist yet, which is very exciting.
Yeah, the law comes chasing after. With a big and long gown on.
Yeah, that's when you call Jacqui. I'm just kidding.
You're don't call me.
Jacqui's saying no, don't call me.
Jackie's unavailable.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like this is a bad question that I wrote before I listened to your story. What is something that someone has done that has made you feel included and has really stuck with you?
I think being part of the Pinnacle Foundation, so that's a scholarship and mentorship program for disadvantaged LGBTQI plus youth that have gone through things like what I've gone through. I think to be selected and to be chosen as in that program. So I was one of 4 in the early 2010s, and now we have over 100 scholars that we have every single year, and it's a family. And I think that to have that, they didn't care about my sexuality or my studies or anything like that. They just really wanted me to succeed. So that was a really beautiful, inclusive space and continues to be. Good question. Beautiful. Great question.
Now, you're involved with politics as well, and this isn't a question, it's just a statement while we're there with the Pinnacle, is of course that the Minns government did set up the LGBTIQ plus Advisory Council. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Minns government did set up this incredible advisory council. So there's 16 of us from incredibly different walks of life, and our role is to advise the government on LGBTIQA plus issues. And so I'm really excited to be part of that council because I think that it's going to be really important to get strong voices in government to say this is what's happening in our community and this is how we need support. So yeah, it's going to be a great experience. Already had 2 meetings. So
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a question I actually thought of with Jacqui when she mentioned crossing party lines.
Okay.
Not a political question. You can answer it however you like. What's a hill you are willing to die on?
Oh, I would definitely die on the mindset hill. So knowing that, so I would go dying, knowing that your mindset, what you think about, you create in your life. I would definitely die on that hill for sure.
What's the one thing you think a cishet white male needs to know about people who aren't?
That's such a great question. I would say we're all human and we're all souls, and to know that your behavior impacts other people in ways that you know and you don't know, and to see people as just people, I think is a really important message that needs to be strongly believed in and strongly advocated for at times like this.
Cracking advice.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
This is my last question. So you've actually done really well.
Okay.
Back to the mentor-mentee thing. For all the mentees who have tried to contact you and you're fully booked and they can't get in with you and they're looking for another mentor, what's some advice for like spotting some green flags or what to look for?
I think really understand what they do and then how they do it. I think that's a really important component of coaching. But I think coaching is really important to understand the connection of the two that you go into. For me, it's a very special relationship. It feels I'm very dedicated to my clients. I will die on the hill for them. I'll die on the hill for all of my clients. And I'm very lucky to have that relationship with my own coach and to know that you have somebody who will back you 100% and is brave enough to tell you when you've got blind spots. I think that that's really important. So if you spot somebody that you feel that can do that for you, and is prepared to die on a hill for you, like hopefully my coach is for me as well. I'm sure she is. But I think that that's really important and it's such a special, unique, gorgeous, beautiful relationship that you can have with a coach.
You told us about how tough it was in high school, including having to deal with family and then, of course, what happened when you were 23 and learning to walk again. What is the most fun, craziest, silliest thing you've ever done that if you had the chance you would do it again?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I think this is this is the hardest question. I think do you know what? I think some of the Mardi Gras that I've had, they haven't been crazy or wild, but to just kind of be in an environment where every single person is so inviting, so inclusive. I was at World Pride and I marched in World Pride and that was an experience that I think I'll take to my grave. I think it was just such an awesome experience. I'd probably do that again.
I hope there are lots more of those for
you.
Yes.
I think there are going to be a lot more of those, hopefully those experiences in my life.
And let's do the bonus one. Because it is Mardi Gras, and let's say you've got the Mardi Gras wand and you could wave it. How would you change the world?
Okay, so I'm going to do two. So I'm going to put my advocacy hat on and then I'm also going to put my coach hat on. So for my advocacy hat, I would say that I take away the ability to prejudice or discriminate against other people. So nobody could ever possibly see differences in others in a negative way. I think differences are a very positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then for my high performance work, I think that if I had a magic wand, I would change it so that everybody has a growth mindset. Everyone has a growth mindset and that ability to know that they can really create the world and the life they really choose to.
I have a growth mindset, but I need to get rid of about 15 kilos of it. So I might have to talk to you about it sometime.
There you go.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Happy Mardi Gras, Veronica.
Happy Mardi Gras.
Happy Mardi Gras, everyone. We hope you have a fabulous weekend. Hope the weather is beautiful tomorrow night. There is lots of laughter, lots of tears of joy, lots of sleep for you on the couch at home.
I need like a cool temperature for sleeping.
Yes. Yep, definitely.
Now, this show is a Pinstripe Media production, produced and edited by James Vass. Thanks to Ella Walsh, to Ausbiz and Vanta for helping make it possible. Subscribe to Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Don't forget to read startupdaily.net for all ANZ tech news for free. There was a wonderful piece you wrote last year about the pitch night that you put together that I absolutely loved. Next week, I'll be at South Start in Adelaide, so come and say hello. Come and listen to our panel on Wednesday titled But Are We Happy? I've got a couple of great guests coming along to talk about that. We'll return next Friday with Kayla in charge for International Women's Day. No blokes.
Women taking over the studio.
There you
About time.
Yeah, you're out of here.
Yeah, the diversity hire is out of here and women are in charge as they should be. Have a great weekend. Lots of love to all. Thank you so much for coming along.